Whenever I see a new gacha with beetles, I just gotta go for it. And today, it looks like we got the, wait a minute, that is not what I had in mind. There we go, the Goliath beetle. So, while I construct this figure, let's talk about one of the largest beetles out there. Named after the big dude from the Bible, the common name of Goliath beetle refers to any of the 5 species found in Africa under the genus Goliathus. As for the figure, I'll reveal what species it is at the end of the video. When you think about Goliath beetles, the first image is probably of one that's a skeletal black and white, but throughout the 5 species, you can also find them in shades of brown, from ochre to a nice roasted chestnut, but one species even has an orange-yellow thorax and can even appear iridescent. The elytra on these behemoths can also come in many different patterns, from stripes and spots to a blank white canvas. These beetles also have minute differences that make their patterns entirely unique, just like a fingerprint. So they're much easier to name and differentiate. I dub thee Jimmy. Besides their striking coloration, males have a Y-shaped horn that's used for gladiatorial battles, while females have more of a shovel as a head to help with burrowing when it's egg-laying time. Now, to address the Goliath in the room, this beetle is obviously talked about because of its ridiculous size, especially for a flower beetle. They might not get as long as the Hercules, only ranging from 6 to 11 centimeters, granted still huge, but they can get really heavy as a larva. Goliath larvae regularly fatten up to 80 to 100 grams, and it's credited as the heaviest beetle on Guinness World Records, although in 2007 a breeder from Taiwan destroyed that record with an Alaskan bullworm of a unit that is the larvae of Megasoma actaeon. It's frickin' 200 grams! That's insane! Anyway, I'm getting a little distracted. After metamorphosis, the adult weighs around 40 to 50 grams, but the reason why it can get so big compared to other itty bitty flower beetles is because of its crazy diet as a larva. Most beetles' larval diet consists of just rotting wood, but the bodybuilder Goliath requires protein, and a lot of it. These larvae are known to be cannibalistic in captivity, but it's also highly suspected that they're carnivorous in the wild as well. It's known that other flower beetle larvae, when given the opportunity, will eat other larvae, but given the insane protein requirement, it might be necessary to predate for the Goliath beetle. A study was conducted on varying levels of protein in their diet, and those on the no-protein Twinkie diet, well, they all died. Most on the full protein diet reached pupation, and only 4 out of the 11 larvae on the semi-nourished diet pupated. Although the larval life cycle is split into 3 instars, almost all of the growth occurs in the 3rd instar, and this is when it's do or die when it comes to protein consumption. In that same study, they introduced protein at different times, and every single time, the larvae's body mass skyrocketed. Not only does the study show that they need protein, if we take a look at their morphology, these larvae possess some scarily sharp mandibles with teeth, and the legs with long pointed claws to potentially grasp onto prey. All of this suggests that these larvae are at least predaceous and are potentially obligate predators. Because these beetles require so much protein in their diet, breeders will often add cat, dog, or fish food to their substrate to make sure they get what's needed. After several months of eating and growing, the larvae will pupate and then result in that bulldozer of a beetle and live from 6 to 8 months, and if you're really lucky, all the way up to a year. The breeding and rearing of Goliath beetles are not beginner friendly for several reasons besides its diet, so if you want to challenge yourself to breed them, check out these sources in the description below. Now earlier, I mentioned 5 species are considered as the Goliath beetle, but there's 2 more mysterious boys that we must mention, but first, let's cover the basics. This map conveniently shows you where you can find all the different species of Goliathus, and starting from the southeast coast of Africa, we have albosignatus with their horizontal streaks of black looking like the distant hot horizon of Africa. Moving a little northwest is orientalis, found mostly in the Congo and Tanzania. This one's a little bit larger than albosignatus, but it can be told apart by its elytra that looks like a black and white dried up lake bed. Onto Central Africa, we've got Goliathus, which probably has the most variability as its elytra can range from a flat black or brown to a radiant white, and that white form has been given the specific name quadrimaculatus. Next, if we go east, we can discover two species that live in the general area, regius and cacicus. Thankfully, they're very easy to tell apart. Regius tends to have thicker columns of black on their thorax and large bands on the sides of the elytra. And cacicus, well, it's the most distinct of the Goliath beetles, boasting a beautiful orange thorax with a bit of silvery iridescence. The females lack that sheen, but they're quite pretty as well. However, when IDing these beetles, it's always best to go where it was found, since the elytra variability can make it a little confusing which species it is. So, those were the main 5, but I also wanted to mention Goliathus atlas, which also resides with the regius and cacicus. Knowing that, you probably guessed it's a natural hybrid, and you are 100% correct. Its thorax has an empty highlighter orange color, and its elytra is just like the regius. Sometimes those bands won't connect, so it's kind of like when a sidebird doesn't quite match up with a beard. Because of its hybrid status, it's not recognized as a true species. Speaking of hybrids, one breeder was successful in captively rearing a hybrid of Goliatus and orientalis, but unfortunately, it was infertile. Looks really pretty though. And finally, we have Goliathus kolbei, which falls under the same genus as the other Goliath beetles, but is in its own subgenus, Agriophages. Now these aren't your typical Goliath beetle, as the horns don't form a Y and look more like an ear pick, but gorgeous chunky boys nonetheless. Alright folks, now is the time to lock in your answer, so comment below what you think it is, but without further ado, if you thought this was Goliathus regius, then you are incorrect, and you've got to subscribe to me. But if you guessed Goliathus orientalis, well, congratulations! Now, I'll be completely honest, I monkey saw, monkey did the gotcha, because it had beetles and I didn't really see what was in it besides the atlas, so when I saw that thorax in the tinted capsule, I just thought it was the Goliath. I wrote this script before recording the gotcha bit, so I wasn't letting my script go to waste, but if you were looking forward to learning about the beetle I actually pulled from the gotcha, Mechnarina torquata ugandensis, then check out this video about cyborg beetles. Nevertheless, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great, fantastic rest of your day.